It's no surprise to anyone that Pierre-Luc Dubois' agent has told the Winnipeg Jets that he won't return in any capacity to the team next season, even though Dubois is an RFA for one more year. Dubois' longtime desire to play for the Montreal Canadiens has the Habs as the front-runners to land Dubois in most fans' minds. What are the risks involved for Montreal to do so? Should Montreal trade for PLD now or wait and see if he gets to UFA status in 1 year and sign him without giving up any valuable assets? Do they have the assets that they need? Are they willing to give them up? In this video, I'll go over what I know and try to figure out what Montreal will do. That's right here at Talkin' Habs. Hey everybody, I'm Rick. Those pesky PLD rumors just won't go away, and they've actually heated up this week with this announcement by my dog. Hey everybody, I'm Rick. Those pesky PLD rumors just won't go away, and as a matter of fact, they've heated up this week with this announcement. Pierre-Luc Dubois' agent, Pat Precedent, has let the Winnipeg Jets GM, Kevin Cheveldayoff, know that PLD will not be signing with them in any capacity, either long-term or short-term, even with 1 year left as an RFA before he becomes a UFA. And the important thing in this overlay here is that on the bottom, talk is that Montreal Canadiens general manager Kent Hughes has already contacted the Jets to convey his interest in Dubois, and that is the reason for this video. The Dubois camp will submit a list of teams he would have interest in signing with long-term, maybe 5 or 6 teams. Of course, they'll need to determine the willingness of those teams to add Dubois and his new contract before putting them on their list. The Canadiens who reached out to the Jets as soon as their season ended will be on that list. Cheveldayoff will then work off that list to try to negotiate the trade that helps the Jets the most. Meanwhile, Brisson can begin talking to those teams about the parameters of a new contract so that they can do a sign and trade. And so if you're going to trade for Dubois, you know that you've got him. If Montreal Canadiens don't trade for Dubois right now, they will not be getting him as a UFA because he won't be going to the UFA market. He'll be signing a long-term deal with wherever they trade him. He's giving the list saying, yeah, I'll be willing to sign with these teams. So does that mean that 3 years from now, Montreal isn't rumored to be acquiring Dubois? I don't know. Dubois has a history now of asking to be traded early. He asked the Blue Jackets to be traded and now Winnipeg, the only 2 teams he's played for in the NHL. Both times after just 3 seasons, hence my joke about 3 seasons. A pattern seems to be forming. Will it continue if Montreal acquires him? Now, he moved around a lot, and he spoke about this, and I wonder if this affects anything or not. To me personally, all my life, I followed my parents, and we moved around. The CBA gives UFAs the right to pick whatever they want. So, Dubois, I'm not a UFA, so don't worry about that, blah, 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 blah. He moved a lot growing up because of his dad's hockey work. Is that why he gets restless? Seemingly after 3 seasons. Like, it's a question. I don't know if it's true or not, but I think it's a valid question. Weighing in here is the fact that the Jets traded Patrick Laine and Jack Roslovic to the Columbus Blue Jackets to acquire Dubois. How much does that factor into what the Jets will want in return? Because it's a big loss if they don't get back enough in return. So what options does GM Cheveldayoff have in front of him at this point? So he's got qualifying offer, which is what Dubois signed at the beginning of last season to play. It's a 1-year offer, and Dubois says he won't sign it. So if they give him a qualifying offer, so it's probably out. Club elected arbitration. And that's a 1-year contract. It's binding to both parties when they sign. So that means, what I mean by that is just the contract numbers, right? Each team says, this is what I want. Basically, the arbitrator decides if they're going to get that. I believe the team can decide to walk away if they lose and don't like the dollar value. But I think the player is locked in. As far as if the team walks away, then he's a free agent. But I'm saying he's locked into whatever the arbitrator, where the team can walk away if they don't like the number. They can trade Dubois. He provides a 5 or 6 team list, as he said. Teams he'd be willing to sign long-term with, which is really important. Or I imagine they can trade him to any team as long as it's before July 1st, when he's an RFA and his contract for last season ends. They can do a sign and trade, which is what they're talking about. That's where Pat Brisson comes in. He works out the deal, and the Jets write it up and sign him and trade him. It maximizes the term for the new team. So they get, instead of 7, they get 8 years. If they sign him as a free agent, it's only 7 years. It has to be in your system before you sign him to get 8 years. That also should mean a bigger return for the Jets, so they'd be wanting to do this. If he's traded to a team not on his list, it's probably as a 1-year rental, unless it turns out that he plays there 1 year, really likes it, likes the players, likes the city, and signs long-term, and that could happen. Offer sheets could pose a big problem. Matching means for the Jets that they won't be able to trade Dubois for 1 year, and he'd walk right into free agency as long as it's a 1-year offer sheet. And there's no return for the Jets for that, right? If they can't trade him at the deadline or any other time and he walks into free agency, there's no return. Now, would Dubois sign an offer sheet for more than 1 season because he wants to be a UFA? I guess it depends on the team that offer sheets him. An offer sheet also means, if matched, he would have to play for the team for the term of the offer sheet. And he's saying he won't do that. So I don't think he signs any offer sheets, because it could mean that he plays for the team. Even if he signs like a ridiculous number that he thinks they won't match, they might, and then he has to play. So I don't think there's an offer sheet thing, unless, say, it's Montreal. But even then, that the matching could throw that off. The Jets are not looking to rebuild. They're saying they're not looking for a rebuild and will be looking to add NHL players in any Dubois trade. They'll need to go to work quickly, as the hope and expectation is for this trade to be completed before or at the draft, which is June 28th and 29th. It depends on I've heard that they are looking maybe to rebuild, and you got to think, if they trade Hellebuck, if they can't sign Scheifele and Wheeler and Dubois, I don't think they have a choice but to rebuild. So I don't know. I guess it's just being bold and saying, yeah, we're not looking to rebuild, but they probably are going to have to. So what is Cheveldayoff looking for in return when he's talking with those 5 or 6 teams? It's looking like a high first-round pick straight up, 1-for-1. So that means 15th or lower. Or higher, I guess. I don't know how you look at it. Lower, right down to first. 15 to first. Or a late first-round pick and an NHL player or top prospect as a minimum. And I put in the top prospect, but I really heard an NHL player. Montreal has the pick. It seems clear enough Montreal's showing some interest, as you saw, in PLD. What are they willing to pay, though? That's the thing. 1, to acquire him. What are they willing to give up? And to pay in terms of an AAV on his new contract, because I doubt they're trading for PLD for 1 year. They're trading for PLD. They want to know they can sign him, and they'll have him here for 8 years. If they're trading for him, that's what they're looking to do. They won't give the farm away in a trade to get him, so there may not be a way to make a deal work. And especially if the Jets insist on someone like Doc. If they ask for Doc Coppins, I mean, it's not happening, that. And this is going to be the problem. Everybody wants this to happen, but this is going to be a problem. I don't know if there's a deal here that satisfies both sides. Yes, one side will be happy, the other side not, or vice versa, but I don't know that both sides are going to be happy. There is a misunderstanding here, and Kent Hughes clarified it today. Setting Suzuki as a cap for Caulfield was because they were coming off entry level, similar circumstances. That won't necessarily apply for a UFA, or in this case, someone a year away from UFA. It's very different. Kent Hughes and Jeff Gordon aren't interested in paying any forward more than Suzuki, as they've said publicly recently. Dubois will command $9 million or more. Does that essentially squash this? At $9 million, I think it does. I think it does at $9 million. So Dubois not just coming off his ELC, I guess would qualify for higher pay than Nick Suzuki, but should he? Like, are they going to do that? I don't know. Would he be willing to go like Kent Hughes, as high as is rumored, the $9 million, which seems to be Dubois' asking price? I say no. I happen to know that Elliot Friedman thinks the same thing. I don't think it's only Montreal that's in the running, but we all believe it's his vast preference. So if you're Montreal, you're not paying a ransom for him. Pierre Lebrun, he was asked about this. The Habs remain an interested party. Having said that, I don't think Montreal is interested in paying a fortune in the trade, especially when you consider the player, as of now, would be a UFA in a year. Although with that, I got to say, if they trade him, I don't think he's going to be a UFA in a year. So I think that takes that out. You might have to pay a little more than you might have originally planned because of this. But I don't know that they're looking to pay $9 million to get him. Another thing is, we all know he seems to not want to play when he's not happy, demands trades, other things you can think of. Does his character meet Montreal standards? Does he check those boxes? That's going to be a big thing because it's a thing for every player that they bring in. Going forward, it's going to be a thing. Will his 6 years NHL experience help him handle the pressure that is in Montreal for French players, for players born here in Quebec? That's going to be a thing. Now, comparing PLD, his career high, which was last season, and Nick Suzuki, who we're comparing in salaries, and his career high, which was last season. So PLD, his 6th year, 73 games, 27 goals, 36 assists, 63 points. And Nick Suzuki in his 4th year, 82 games, didn't miss any, 26 goals, 40 assists, 66 points. Now there's a 9-game difference. He's close to a point-a-game player. We're talking about PLD. So say he would add 70 points in 82 games. Nick Suzuki wasn't that far off, 2 years younger. I'm not paying PLD more than Nick Suzuki. I'm not. Let's look at some pros and cons for acquiring Pierre-Luc Dubois. Pros. He's only 25. As I'm filming, he's still 24, but he turns 25 in June. So he's 25. He's big, physical. He plays a physical game. He can play center, the wing, no problem, and he can play the power play. I don't think he's a PK guy. He's not. He's a top 6 forward, and he's skilled. There's no doubt about it. He brings the offense needed. 70 points. Montreal could use another 70-point guy without, but the right guy. He's 30-plus goal potential because he got 27, 30-plus goal potential. Now, this is just for Montreal. Other teams, I don't think this is important, but he's a Quebec-born player, which sells tickets here in Montreal. There's no doubt, and brings in fans, and there's no doubt about that. They have the first-round pick that they need to make this happen. And I think our Coach Marty, I think he can make a guy like Dubois reach his full potential. I think that's a pro, having Coach Marty. I don't know if it's necessarily a pro if he goes to another team, obviously, but I think with Coach Marty, that might make a difference in PLD. Might even make him love the team so much that he doesn't complain in 3 years. Cons. Will he want to move again in 3 years? That, look, if he's struggling and the fans are on him, and it can be tough for French guys when that happens. Look at Drouin. Is he going to want to move on in 3 years again? We signed him to an 8-year contract, and he just doesn't want to play. And at that point, third team, who's going to want him? Especially if you overpay a little bit. So he can take dumb penalties and at bad times. But what player like Pierre-Luc Dubois doesn't really, right? So, that's kind of like a known. Doesn't show up every game. Alex Kovalev type of thing. Not my favorite thing. So that's a con. Not assured if he'll sign long-term at a fair price. So this is, before they talk and everything, like going into right now, it's not assured that he'd come in and sign at a fair price. So And you can't overpay, because I wrote here that UFA soon, and then I updated that with or will he, because that's an unknown too. It's his third team in 7 years. 3 teams in 7 years, not great. You gotta question, what's going on with that, right? Unknown if he can handle the pressure here in Montreal. That's there for French players, and you can't deny that. If you're saying that's not a thing, it is a thing. All right, let's take a look. I don't have any overlays for it, but let's take a look at the teams being mentioned as far as landing spots for Dubois. What I've seen out there, I don't know if this is what's going to be on his list, but these are what people are talking about. Number one, I've got here, and it's not in order. Buffalo. I don't know why he's on Buffalo. Like I doubt Buffalo would be on PLD's list, so I don't know why Buffalo's been mentioned. Toronto. I wrote here, ha ha ha, because doesn't every deal in the NHL involve or affect the Leafs? At least Sportsnet thinks so. Minnesota. Minnesota's been talked about. I don't really know why. Just heard their name mentioned a few times. I haven't heard any details about why, and I can't really figure out why exactly, but it's been mentioned. Boston Bruins. Mentioned a lot, but very doubtful. They don't have the cap. So unless they use magic to find cap space, I don't know how Boston's going to do it, but being mentioned a lot. They need a center like him, there's no doubt, but I don't know how they swing that. LA Kings might make the most sense for both teams, and PLD would probably like it there. Might make the most sense for both teams, LA, because LA has the players that the Jets would be looking for. They got the draft pick, and kind of think that LA could be on Dubois' list. I kind of think that he could be on Dubois, that it could be there. So I think LA's probably the front runner right now, even though most people think Montreal's the front runner. So Montreal, most fans, number one landing spot. But can a deal be worked out that works for both teams? And this is going to be the problem. I don't know that there's a deal that can be worked out here for both teams. I also hear Colorado, but again, no details. I don't know who they're thinking of as far as coming back and all that, but Colorado's been mentioned. So I don't know. I don't know who's going to be on his list. And I don't think that I'm kind of wondering if Montreal can work a deal out here. Does Cheveldayoff just say, F your list to PLD and trade him to the highest bidder? And that's what I do. Trade him to the highest bidder, try to get a bidding war, try to get as much as you can for him, because that's really what he should be trying to do. If it gets into a bidding war, for sure Montreal's out. Once the price starts to rise, I don't think Montreal's out. They're not going to pay a lot. They're not going to pay a lot for this muffler. Get the reference? What would a deal look like, I guess, that Montreal would be happy with? Now, I'm going to go over a few things. I don't know if that's going to be it. I've seen some of these. One is kind of mine, but we'll see. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Florida first and Dvorak, which I think that is what I would probably offer. I threw in Kidney here, Riley Kidney, because I think Riley Kidney is a prospect that can be traded. But I'm also saying because Armia or Edmondson or Hoffman, if they take one of those guys, you got to throw in something else. Florida first, 2024 third, and Owen Beck. I think if you're going to offer Owen Beck, I don't think you need that third for next year's third. Florida first and Owen Beck. You can add the rights to Guryanov as a sweetener. I'm okay with that. I don't think Montreal is going to sign Guryanov. He's an RFA. You give him a qualifying offer and move him. Or you move him before the qualifying offer, let them do it. Anyways, what do you think of those? And let me know in the comment section. And what do you guys got as an idea that you'd be willing to give up to get PLD? Now, there's a precedent for the Jets in it's very similar situation. If you're looking at the framework for a potential trade, look no further than the summer of 2019, when defenseman Jacob Trouba was dealt to the Rangers for defenseman Neil Pionk and a 2019 first rounder, which was 20th overall, that ended up being Ville Heinola. And there you go. That's Like it's so close. A first round pick, Christian Dvorak. You might have to sweeten that a little bit, but not much. I'm not willing to go higher than that personally. If Dubois says Montreal or bust, what does that mean for Winnipeg's leverage anyway? Right? So if he does say it's going to be Montreal, their leverage is nothing. They're going to have to take pretty much what Montreal gives them or do something else and, have them sit out till you can move them. What does it do for Montreal's leverage? It increases Montreal's leverage. Takes away, gives to Montreal. All right, here's my conclusion on what I think should happen, I guess. So I don't think it's as set in stone as a lot of people think that he's going to come to Montreal. I don't think that's set in stone at all. GM Hughes won't overpay. And if anything, I think he won't pay market value even, to acquire PLD. If Montreal's leverage of PLD's obvious desire to play here doesn't get him a deal where Montreal is the big winner, I don't think he pulls the trigger. If PLD is Montreal or bust, Hughes should be, I fleece them or bust. If Hughes can move a veteran or two, Hoffman or me or Edmondson, and not give away a major prospect, like I'm kind of all in. Depending on the main guy that they're giving. As long as they aren't paying Dubois over 7, maybe a little bit more than 7 million for the AAV for 8 years or 7 years. I prefer 7 million. That's what I think you should get, 7 million for 8 years. I'm willing to throw in a sweetener. If they're willing to take Armia, especially, or Edmondson or Hoffman, I'm willing to throw in a sweetener. So PLD at a bargain, I take. PLD at market value or higher, crickets. I trust in Kent Hughes to do the right thing. I think other teams have more than Montreal can or will offer personally. So I don't know that there's a deal here. So in the end, I'm offering, if I'm Hughes, I'm offering Florida's first and Christian Dvorak, and it's a take it or leave it. That's what I say. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate you guys watching. Hope you enjoyed that. Give a thumbs up. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. And that's it. Have a good one. Ciao.